Welcome to part two. I warned you it was a jam-packed chapter. So, goal setting theory has to do with setting goals that are attainable for employees. So, setting ambitious but attainable goals, motivating workers, and improving performance if the goals are accepted. The goals should be accompanied by feedback. And finally, facilitated by organizational conditions. The feedback part is important so that the employee knows how, in the manager's perspective, they're doing getting towards those goals. Management by Objectives was developed by Peter Drucker. If you're ever interested in reading about management theory, any one of Peter Drucker's books will be really, really interesting. He's a dynamic researcher, and he's got a handle on management that many people don't. Calls on managers to, one, formulate goals in cooperation with everyone in the organization. So again, we're seeing this thread running through the entire chapter about everyone being connected with regards to making decisions and formulating goals. There's a lot of communication going on here. Commit employees to those goals. So we need to get the employees to say, yes, these are the goals that we should have, and we are committed to succeeding. And then finally, monitor results and reward accomplishments. Monitoring results goes back to what we were talking about here with regards to feedback, right? Monitoring results means getting feedback to the employees. How are we doing reaching these goals? And when you reach the goals, reward the accomplishment. And it has to be a reward that the employee values. And each employee may have a different kind of reward that they're looking for. So here's the way expectancy theory works. We ask, can I accomplish the task? Is it doable? If it's not, I'm not going to be motivated. If it is, my next question is going to be, well, is the reward that you're going to give me worth my time and effort? If it is, I am now motivated and I will probably succeed. If it's not, again, I'm not motivated. So the task needs to be accomplishable. Let's make up a word. And the reward needs to be worth it to me. And again, we go back to that idea that different people have different motivating rewards. Nadler and Lawler's 5 steps to improve employee performance. Let's look at these steps. Determine what rewards employers value. Again, we're going back to that individual value of a reward. Will the employee feel that it's worth their effort? Determine each employee's desired performance standard. So, how is the employee going to perform? And how are we going to measure that performance? What's the standard we're going to compare to? Number 3, ensure that performance standards are attainable. And we go back to that idea again, where unless the goals are attainable, there's no motivation here. Guarantee rewards tied to performance. Guarantee rewards. In other words, we can't do a bait and switch where, okay, you completed this, but now we want you to do this before you get your reward. Be certain that employees consider the rewards adequate. This kind of goes back to number 1. Does the employee value the reward that's being offered? Motivating through job enrichment, so making the job better. Uses Maslow and Hertzberg. Work as a sign that individuals can complete an identifiable task from beginning to end and are held responsible for successful achievement. It includes job enlargement. That means expanding my responsibilities, and job rotation, doing different things. 5 characteristics of work that affect motivation and performance. Skill variety, task identity, task significance. Is what I do important? Is it meaningful to the organization? Autonomy. What does autonomy mean? That means working alone. People like to work on their own. They like to be told, this is what we expect, now go do it. As long as they have the skills and the training in order to achieve the goal. And then feedback. Feedback is always important. And as we've been talking about through this entire chapter, open communication. Excuse me 1 second. Create an organizational culture that rewards listening, right? This is a type Y company. Train supervisors and managers to listen. Stephen Covey talked in his book about active listening. And active listening is different than hearing. Hearing is what we normally do. We're in conversation with someone, we're hearing what they're saying, but while we're hearing it, we're already putting together our response. Think about that the next time you're talking to someone, how sometimes you're waiting for them to be done so you can say what you want to say. Active listening means sitting back and listening to what someone's saying from their perspective. All right, so we're listening to what they're saying the way they think. That way we can clearly understand what they're trying to communicate to us, and then we can respond to that with our own response. Remove barriers to open communication. Avoid vague and ambiguous communication. So we need to be specific here. Make it easy to communicate and ask employees what is important to them. That's another theme that we've been talking about through this entire chapter. What's important to the employee? That comes from open communication. Applying open communication in self-managed teams, we get respect workers, provide interesting work, and keep it interesting. Change it up. Develop workers' skills. So advance your employees. Give them new training. Allow autonomy. That's a big deal for a lot of people. Decentralize authority. So allow the employees to make some decisions on their own. Give them authority and responsibility. And finally, reward good work. Different cultures experience motivational approaches differently. There are high context cultures, low context cultures. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Leaders need to be culturally astute, flexible, and able to deal with ambiguity. Important tactics for HR managers. Bring employees in on the company's overall vision. This again goes back to that theme of communication and including the employees in decision making and in goal setting. Communicate often and effectively. Acknowledge and celebrate all team milestones. That's that acknowledgement thing that we talked about in the very beginning. One of the important things to employees, acknowledgement. Be flexible with scheduling. Let's take a look. This is really interesting. I liked this when I first read it. Generations of employees. We have baby boomers born 1946 to 1964. Yes, I am a baby boomer. Baby boomers experienced great economic prosperity right after World War I, job security, optimism about their future. Gen X, 1965 to about 1980. They were raised in the dual career family where husband and wife were both working. The kids attended daycare, and there was some feeling of insecurity about jobs. Gen Y, or the millennials, 1980 to 1995, raised by indulgent parents. My kid, you are a perfect kid. You deserve whatever you want. Used to many comforts like computers and cell phones. Generation Z, 1996, 2009, they grew up post 9/11 in the wake of the Great Recession that started in 2008 and amid many reports of school violence. And then, of course, Generation Alpha was after 2010. So when you're managing people, you need to understand where they fit in here, because you're going to have different responses to job responsibility. How do you motivate Gen Xers? Gen Xers want economic security, but they focus more on career security than job security. Good motivators as managers do to emphasis on results rather than work hours, tend to be flexible and good at collaboration and consensus building. So they're people, if you can say that. Very effective at giving employee feedback and praise. That's the Gen Xers. Millennials tend to be impatient, skeptical, blunt, and expressive. They're tech savvy and able to grasp new concepts, and they're they have little patience for people who aren't into technology. Able to multitask and are efficient, highlight a strong sense of commitment, place a high value on work-life balance. They're not the ones who are working 16 hours a day. Fun and stimulation are key job requirements. And that's it for chapter 9. So again, as I say at the end of every chapter, please come and talk to me if you need some help, if you want to work through, if you want to maybe make a plan for the rest of the semester. Good luck. Have a great week.